to Delta 5. You probably picked up on the social media that Drugo More is coming back to Delta 5, which I think is a great thing, and I'm really happy to also that this has happened in this way. We have, as Delta 5 suggested to Drugo More, to invite Róna Kopeczky for the talk and to have her talk Measuring Space, a curatorial agenda in Hungary today, actually within the framework of Refleks, and it came out somehow that it came here, so it's a perfect match. As Delta 5, we have known Róna Kopeczky's work for some years now, also I think almost 10. Delta 5 is part of this Easttopics, which Róna will be talking about as an artist-run space. And Easttopics is a web platform that shows artistic practices, organizations, and so on, working in this part of Europe, from north to south of Eastern Europe. But we never, like when we talked with Róna, she said incidentally she was never in Rijeka.
Shame on me.
Shame on her, but also not shame on you. It's a really good opportunity to bring you here. And also I know that you know many people in Rijeka, but also you don't know many, and it's a great also opportunity to learn about your work and for you to get to know the people who work here. And I will read the introduction about Róna. Róna Kopeczky is a curator and art historian based in Budapest. She worked as a curator for international art in Ludwig Museum Budapest between 2006 and 2015. Where she mostly focused on the site and situation-specific practices of young and mid-career artists from Central Eastern Europe. In 2015, she has joined the ACB Gallery in Budapest as artistic director and also actively contributes to the publishing activity of ACB Research Lab with a focus on forgotten, neglected or ignored oeuvres of the Hungarian neo-avant-garde art. She participated in the organization of the first and second OFF-Biennále Budapest in 2015 and 2017, and she is the co-founder of the aforementioned Easttopics platform. She was the curator of the 18th Talent Print Triennial, where also Igor Eshkinya was participating, who is part of Delta, but...
And he's coming, yes. Wow, bravo, Igor. That is called timing.
Well, I was waiting here for half an hour.
The Talent Print Triennial was, of course, in Estonia. And she was also the curator of the Hungarian pavilion at the 60th Venice Biennial last year. She has been working on the elaboration and development of Secondary Archive, a very interesting archive of women artists, and based in Central and Eastern Europe, which was launched in 2021. She has completed her PhD in art history in 2013 at Sorbonne University in Paris. And in the talk here, she will be initially talking about the right-wing turn and the dissolution of the cultural landscape in Hungary. By chance, as focus group, we have been at the first OFF-Biennále, where we have experienced many of these conversations at the very beginning when these occurrences started happening. And this trend of culture side is of course not endemic to Hungary. Recently I was in Bratislava and it's not connected to me going to places and right-wing governments coming to power, but a very similar situation with the Kunsthalle director changed and so on, so kind of it's not a thing, and also Róna reminded me today that in context of in Poland, a similar situation occurred. We also experienced in Slovenia, where I'm living now, and in Croatia, periods of this type of interference within the cultural context. This is a global trend. and in the European context, Hungary has somewhat led in these types of attacks on culture, but at the same time, what is really interesting and what Róna will be also focusing in the conversation or in the talk is basically the resistance with which the many actors and the art workers in Hungary and in Budapest have reacted against these types of assaults. And as a spoiler alert, so we're not in dialogue. Róna will be talking from now on and presenting the talk that she has prepared. And in case you will need some stipulation at the end, I will start the Q&A, but you're also very invited to talk and exchange at the end. Also, if some questions appear during, Róna said that it is fine to ask for clarification. So please, Róna, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Iva, for this complex introduction, and thank you, Drugo for the invitation. I'm very pleased to be here at last and to somehow fill this shameful gap of mine. So, as Iva mentioned, I will give a quite complex overview of what happened on the cultural landscape in Hungary, and I will go back to 2012 when we really started sensing changes. First at the head of museums, and then it developed to other institutions. Why 2012? Simply because the government changed in 2010. So the actual government in power was elected on this year, Fidesz party, and the changes that were implemented really started to be sensible and tangible in 2012. And so in the first part I will introduce what happened in general and what were, let's say, collective responses or attempts to, to point the finger on problematic elements and on the total destructuration of the contemporary art field. And in the second part of my presentation, I will mostly speak about my personal curatorial practice, what it is possible to do inside Hungary as a curator, or impossible, and what it is possible to do outside. So first I will start with posing the context. So I was briefly explaining to colleagues earlier today that so up to the creation of this institution, which is called the Hungarian Academy of Art, there was quite generic institution called National Cultural Fund that all kind of disciplines could apply to, from dance to literature to visual arts to publication to so on. And this National Cultural Fund had a certain budget, which was not big, but allowed to cover many different fields. Now, with the creation of this Hungarian Academy of Arts, not only did the whole financement shift, this Hungarian Academy of Art is not a university. It's really something that is almost a ministerial body that has an immense budget and that has an immense infrastructural, armada. They have luxurious headquarters looking directly on the Danube, and they also received the professional supervision of Kunsthalle Budapest, which was historically a place of progressive art. And since then, since they got the supervision, it's obviously not progressive. I made a print screen when this Hungarian Academy of Art was created, and I think it speaks for itself. So all the members are largely 70 plus, mainly male, and a lot of them dead already. And this institution has kept growing with more and more members. Of course, now it diversified in terms of generations, and it also diversified in disciplines. So it was not only about visual arts and art history, but also, classical music and ethnography and other disciplines, but with the aim to give a kind of, platform and security net and promotion for third, fourth, fifth rank artists who were never successful in their life, who never really achieved any kind of serious professional recognition, but who were promoting conservative views. So this is really a conservative retrograde formation that unfortunately has a lot of money and a lot of power. In parallel, we are still talking about 2012, so same year, the exhibition program of certain institutions such as the Hungarian National Gallery started really to focus on this myth and mythology of Hungarian history. You can see the title of the exhibition, Heroes, Kings, Saints, from the history of Hungary, which was, of course, focusing on pieces of the collection, but these pieces were very often fantasizing about a past that, if it existed, didn't exist this way, or were heavily fantasized or romanticized, and some scenes never really existed. In the meantime, there were obviously critical voices which started to sense and to address these topics. This is the exhibition of Société Réaliste Duo, which existed between 2004 and 2015, based in Paris, and their exhibition State of Shades examined, so the shades of color represent the color average of such paintings from the collection of the Hungarian National Gallery, all reduced to one average color. And so this was the central installation in the biggest space, and I'm showing this because obviously it had a political meaning at the end. So in the central pillar they presented this color tone, which is entitled Hungarian National Painting Grey, which is the summary, the addition of all the colors of all the represented color mediums on the wall, and also as a kind of political critique of let's say the visual policies of cultural politics, aiming to make everything very homogeneous and politically correct and grey. In the meantime, still the same year, against MMA, so against the Hungarian Academy of Arts, artists, progressive artists started to federate, and they created the NEMMA. Nem in Hungarian means no. So this was obviously a play on words, but which was directly dealing with the whole phenomena of this MMA. So the Hungarian Academy of Arts, the way that there is appropriation of infrastructure, appropriation of funds, appropriation of all kinds of artistic ideologies, and questions of defending Hungarian identity and so on. So this website really lasted for quite a long time. I think it's still active, but it has been silent for quite some years, obviously because of exhaustion and also because so many new scandals have happened since then. Other reactions, artists' reactions, were directed towards what I was mentioning earlier. So the fact that the Hungarian Academy of Art received the supervision of Kunsthalle and turned it into an extremely conservative institution with no concrete program or very ad hoc program, and with exhibitions that were as if you would be in the 80s or 70s in Hungary. So extremely like this salon kind of visual events. And so each week one contemporary progressive artist would stand outside of Kunsthalle and would do a kind of public action that you can see documented here, and a few other examples here. So János Sugár, who put this like closing sign, closed zatvoreno, and Andrea Koronci, who used a kind of huge industrial fan to aerate the hall and bring some fresh air in the institution, symbolically, of course. This series, I think, lasted also for around 15 interventions, but it was obvious that it would not change anything, and that the new supervision is there to stay. And also in the meantime, after all this situation, in 2013, a new director was, let's say, designated by the Ministry of Culture. At that time, there still was Ministry of Culture. Now we don't have Ministry of Culture anymore. It's Ministry of Human Resources, I think, gathering culture, sports, youth, and whatever else. And so in 2013, the previous director, Barnabás Bencsik, reapplied for the position with a very complex application. And the director who was chosen, who was appointed by the ministry, her application was not comparable in quality or in complexity or in anything, but it is known that she is very well connected to the actual party, and that she studied together with one of the ministers at the time in Germany. And so, okay, these are situations that happen, but the most problematic part of that was that she was appointed without the Ludwig Foundation in Germany to be consulted. And the Ludwig Foundation has been one of the founding members of this museum, together with the Hungarian state. And up to that point, so up to this scandal in 2013, the Ludwig Museum in Budapest had to apply to Ludwig Foundation in Aachen to get funding to buy, to acquire non-Hungarian, pieces from non-Hungarian artists. For Hungarian artists, it would be this National Cultural Fund that I mentioned in the beginning. And given this situation of not being consulted for this decision, although having given a lot of money to enlarge the collection, the Ludwig Foundation decided to change this legal agreement and to say that from now on the works that are acquired through Ludwig Foundation money will not become the property of Ludwig Museum Budapest, therefore the Hungarian state, but will become long-term loans, so they can be called back to Aachen anytime, which of course is not in itself a very visible sign, but it means that from now on the actual tangible, a real collection of Ludwig Museum is not enlarging with the rhythm it experienced before, and also it doesn't have any means to do so. So the change of the director also generated a new movement, which was the Union for Contemporary Art, occupying the stairs of Ludwig Museum for, I would say, almost 1 month. And a lot of young cultural workers, artists, were sitting on the stairs and occupying the space, and also workers from the Ludwig Museum itself, very often being in conflict with the institution. I mean, the directors of the institution. So there was a lot of protest and a lot of, ways to voice these concerns, but obviously the very well-oiled machinery that started to roll through this new government was not really stoppable. Papers from, foreign papers, international papers also started to pay attention to what is happening in Hungary and the whole chronology of events, which art newspapers, Refleks or Art Leaks relayed, and this, of course, beyond just the simple protests, also gave way to a new way of thinking. Like, what can we do? We know that everything is shrinking. We know that we lose a lot of possibilities, that the whole landscape will not be the same anymore as we know it. So a lot of my colleagues from Ludwig Museum left the institution, also from other public institutions, and they went to work. Some of them left the country, some of them just simply left public institutional sphere and went to work for independent structures, such as Open Society Archive, such as Truffle Gallery, which is a city-run gallery, and in Hungary, city is opposition. So it's also in a very precarious state because the government is regularly taking money away from the city of Budapest because of its oppositional status. And so this meant that so many professionals and also artists left the country. Professionals left the public sector and were finding or looking for ways to continue their critical progressive activities in other settings, in other fields, and basically developed an off scene. This could take the form of grassroots initiatives. This could take form of independent projects. This could take form of the private commercial sector taking over some duties of that were not allowed anymore or didn't have their place anymore, the legitimacy anymore in public institutions. Sorry. And this is how basically the idea of Biennale Budapest emerged as a counterposition to official cultural politics. So exactly what is OFF-Biennále, or what was the purpose of OFF-Biennále when the idea emerged in 2013? The first edition of OFF-Biennále took place in 2015, and back then it was really an idea to federate all the independent actors of the Hungarian scene who would like to contribute to a series of events that is not state financed, that doesn't use any kind of state-financed venue either. So public space, private galleries, independent structures and so on. And it was really like a first very enthusiastic brewery of artistic contributions and ideas that was really driven by this elan of keeping together and of being able to realize something out of the accustomed places, which were quite a lot and quite comfortable, but suddenly they were not existing anymore for us progressive people, and we needed to find other ways to keep this critical, conceptual, artistic voices active and be heard. So there were many different locations, many different programs. Some were performative, some were exhibitions, some were lectures, some were participative programs, some were workshops, and so on. Some happened in the countryside, many happened in Budapest. And for example, again, coming back to Société Réaliste, their usual working method to draw a kind of medial line out of everything. So they added up in a sound sampling program all the national anthems and tried to draw a sound average out of it. So it was a total cacophony, obviously, but it could be adapted to, as you see, an orchestra which performed on a very symbolic square of Budapest called the Freedom Square. And it is very symbolic because On one side, you have the American embassy. Facing it, you have an obelisk that was erected for Soviet soldiers who died to liberate Hungary in the Second World War. And for a very long time, there was a red star at the top. And it took Hungary a lot of diplomatic efforts to convince Russia to not even to take off the star, just to paint it in gold. And then so you have the American embassy here, the obelisk here. You also have the Hungarian parliament at the bank of the Danube, but also looking on the square. And between the parliament and the Soviet obelisk, you have a statue of Ronald Reagan walking towards the obelisk. And this thing that you see at the back of the photo with this kind of weird bird figure is also, again, another product of, let's say, rewriting history that the government is, very proactive in. It is a monument to victims of German occupation, which is a very problematic title in itself, because first, it denies Nazi Germany. Second, it denies that Hungary had any responsibility in this crime, and it bagatellizes the chronology of deportation of Jewish people in Hungary, explained by the fact that yes, but Budapest resisted for such a long time and it only started to deport Jewish people in 1944, while in the countryside this happened before. So the political message is wrong. The historical message is totally distorted. And thirdly, this is a horrible monument. It's really extremely ugly. And again, this is the same story that one artist, sculptor, got this public commission without any kind of competition, and public funding was spent heavily on this monument, which is an insult to Jewish people. Other examples of few exhibitions. This was a project that was examining alternative ways of education and of reading texts. I'm just going quickly because this would need, of course, a lot more in-depth information in order to grasp everything correctly. This is a map of some of the projects that were realized in the city, the urban structure of Budapest. So you can see that without any public funds, with a lot of, solidarity, professional solidarity, and keeping together and enthusiasm, and also private support, and money from abroad, which will also become a problem. There were quite a lot of activities that were realized. Yes, this is what happened on the announcement of Refleks, which was also kind of solidarity gesture from Refleks to just promote the event. Dan Perzowski, who grasped very well what OFF-Biennále is about. And after the first edition, of course, questions emerged like, what next? How to continue? How to keep OFF-Biennále sustainable? How to keep the enthusiasm in the art scene so that people can continue working together without being exhausted, without keeping faith in this whole project. So this also took a long time to form, but the concept of Biennale 2 emerged, and it took as a starting point real moment in history, a real event or structure that was called Gaudiopolis, so literally the city of joy, which emerged after the Second World War in Hungary. It was basically a children's republic that was created by, Lutheran pastor who gave home to hundreds of children who lost their family during the Second World War. And this, as projects also presented in the first OFF-Biennále, this specific event and structure and initiative was based on self-education, or was based on growing into a citizen that would be self-reflective, critical, who could, approach political questions and historical questions with a certain clarity and distance, and had the tools to analyze what was happening around them. It was also Children's Republic in the form that it was self-sustaining, so everybody was working something. And everybody, the whole structure also sold their products, so there was also money coming in, and everybody was equal. There was a set of rules, so it was a very democratic system, a set of rules that applied equally to kids and adults as well. So a very, there was also a film that was realized, inspired by this initiative, the Republic of Children, which lasted for 5 years and then was dismantled during socialism, because obviously that was a too dangerous model to propagate or to promote the education of citizens who would use their own reflective power. But this basically was the basis of the curatorial concept of Biennale 2 and its title as well. And so you could think, okay, but then this new model emerged, then this OFF-Biennále emerged, so it's kind of counterpoint to everything that happened in cultural politics and that affected the scene negatively. To some extent, yes, but OFF-Biennále also has its limitations because many other things happened since then, which makes financement and let's say organizational power quite numb. So these are a different various list of what happened since then. But for example, as an example of how foreign money has been evicted from the country, first of all, CEU, Central European University, was forced out of Budapest, of Hungary, by the revocation of its license. So now there are no formations that you can get a degree from. There are still some courses in Budapest, but there is no properly university formation allowed in Hungary because it is financed by George Soros, who has been demonized by the government as the philanthropist who actually wants Hungary to sink and to be invaded by immigrants. It's the very basic message of the government. Second point, which comes after that, initiatives and institutions receiving money from abroad have to bear a label on their website that indicates this. It's really like the yellow star during Second World War, you know. It's really amazing. Then again, another result of the ousting of foreign money is the Norwegian Fund for Civil Initiatives, which is forced out, forced to stop its activity in Hungary, which was also another source of financement for OFF-Biennále. Another thing in terms of also high education is that the ruling and financement of universities changed. So they are not directly state sustained anymore, but foundation run, and these foundations are composed by either politicians, so member of the ruling party, and or businessmen who are also connected through commercial interest to the governing party. This also meant that a lot of universities lost their qualification to participate in Erasmus program, because in the whole European Union law for the Erasmus program, universities have to be state-run directly with a jury or a governing body that is connected to the university, meaning teachers or professionals linked to the disciplines taught at the university. Then other tiny things that seem totally insignificant, but which adding up are very much weighing a lot. The government recently suppressed, I think it was last year, art history as a teachable discipline in mid and high school. It's not a discipline anymore. And one very pernicious decision was to suppress the necessity to have a foreign language degree in order to pass your university diploma. You would say, well, no, that's not a big deal. In Hungary, it is a big deal because Hungarian language is super isolated. It means that it's not connected to Slavic, it's not connected to Latin language families. So if a young person comes out of the university and doesn't speak anything else than Hungarian, she will not be able to travel because she doesn't speak any language. Okay, we can also say that traveling is luxury, but let's just imagine that I am inviting a foreign curator to Hungary and I would like him or her to do some studio visits at young artist studios. They are unable to express themselves, which is the least to say problematic. So this is a whole set of decisions, and there are much more that I could go on listing, but just for you to have an idea of how this is still ongoing and how this machinery keeps on rolling. So this is like a general presentation of what has been destroyed so far and created as a counterbalance. Now I will briefly speak about a few initiatives that I'm involved in beyond the two first editions of OFF-Biennále. So Easttopics, what is Easttopics? Easttopics is a platform. I will maybe go back to the... Yes, I managed. So it's a website that is freely accessible. You can browse by countries. You can browse by, for example, you go in Albania. You can see artists, institutions, art professionals. It's more like a database that is meant for, that came, it was born from my personal, how to say, biographical frustration. So I was born in France. I grew up there as the kid of parents from the Hungarian minority of nowadays Serbia. And what I experienced growing up, because I did not grow up in Paris, but under Lyon, which is much more south and much more provincial. What I experienced growing up is the total ignorance of what Central Europe is, what countries it is composed of. Then you have the usual suspects like Bucharest, Budapest, Slovenia, Slavonia, Slovakia. It doesn't matter, it's the same, just a few letters difference. Where is what language is spoken where, what is the capital of, it really didn't matter, and people were not first they were ignorant, and second they were not interested in knowing that. Although arriving in 2004 in Hungary, Hungary was already member of the European Union. And just a quick anecdote, because I think it's really relevant, just before going to Hungary, so we are speaking 2004, I go to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Paris, Department of Grants abroad. I tell them I will go to Hungary for a university year, and I would like to know what French structures are existing there. And the man is very kind, he's very helpful, he prints me a lot of, he prints out a lot of, a list of all the structures in Hungary, active in Hungary, and at the end of our meeting he says, it's a great thing that you're going to Bucharest. Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Paris, Department of International Grants. And this has not changed a lot, obviously. So coming to Budapest, this started to work in me, to ferment, how to say, and I also experienced in Hungary that the artistic scene was very much directed to the West, so Austria, Germany, and a bit of France, but mainly everything possible but towards the West. And not much contact with the surrounding countries or the neighboring countries, not much curiosity to know, okay, we are here and what happens in the region? Actually, what are the neighbors doing? How could we exchange, keep together, whatever? So it's these two poles that somehow maturated, and my initial frustration changed into this product, which was really created with the intention to promote the scene from the Baltic countries to the South Balkan region. So this is a totally freely browsable. Let me see. No, it's not. It's here. Freely browsable website. And we also started to do a curatorial residency for young professionals or youngsters that are still studying. So we do that each year. And it's meant to give a very intense and complex overview of the curatorial scene in Hungary, but also discussing the curatorial urgencies, questions, possibilities, impossibilities in the region, not only in Hungary. So these young people are applying to this curatorial residency, and as you can see, they are usually coming from all over the world. We regularly have residents from Asian countries, from South American countries, from North American countries, from Central and Eastern Europe as well, and from Western Europe. So it's always good to see how this exchange happens and what they realize according to their own original context, but also as they see locally. Then from 2019 to 2022, we were also running an exhibition space that was expressly focusing on young artists from the region. So we hosted a project by Apart Collective from Slovakia, a project from Honza Zamojski, which is a Polish artist, Adrian Kish, who is Hungarian Romanian. Then we also worked with curators who have a specific interest in the region, because we were curious to see what is their approach, what is their take on the contemporary art of the region. So we, for example, for this project, we worked with a Taiwanese curator specialized in video art of the region, who curated a selection for us. Then a French curator and artistic manager who spent long years in Bosnia, in Sarajevo concretely, and he curated this selection of younger artists. And through Easttopics, we also became the partners of a very dear project, which is called Secondary Archive, that Iva mentioned in her introduction. It is a platform that is meant to promote or give more visibility to women artists from Central Eastern Europe. It started as an idea in 2019, and then the official launch happened in 2021. Obviously, it happened online because it was full COVID. And originally, we started with 4 countries, so the Visegrad member countries: Hungary, Poland, Czech Republic, Slovakia. Now we count 12 countries, so we've expanded a lot. So Belarus, Ukraine, the 4 Visegrad countries, Albania, Kosovo, Serbia, Macedonia, Bosnia, and one more that I'm always forgetting. I'm sorry. And we keep expanding, and now if I go back to the website just for you to have a quick look, you see that this number here, 601, is the number of statements that we have published since then. Why am I saying statements? It's because the artists who are figuring on this website are from the three main generations, let's say. So from the pioneering generation, the neo-avant-garde generation, through the generation that started working in the 80s, 90s, so who was really experiencing the change of regime as an adult, and those artists who were born after the change of regime or who were very young at the change of regime. And it is very easily browsable. You have an artist index, you also have essays dealing with a lot of topics connected to female art, women artists, body, womanhood, anything that can be connected to this whole initiative. And you also have all the curators who worked on it. And I started explaining the whole project by asking why we use the term statement. Is because every statement that you can read is written in the first person. So it's the artist who speaks about her life, about her position as an artist, about her experience as a partner, a mother, a citizen, whatever. There is a whole set of questions that is divided in three main pillars: art, life, politics, that artists can pick questions they find relevant to their specific life or to their practice or both. And this is what they speak about in their statement. And why is it then important to have this secondary archive? First of all, because already being a woman artist is quite a challenge in itself, although there is more and more visibility, institutionally speaking. But still, if you decide to have a family, then you don't have time, then you don't have space to work, or you really have to negotiate hard these creative, tools. Also because for a very long time, the voice of women were denied as less important or not paid attention to, or still today you're much easily interrupted if you speak as a woman than as a man. And also grasping this idea of voice and text, which really has kind of weight, was very, very important. And also the fact that in the art education for a very, very long time, art education was, art was taught by men for men. So as a young woman artist, to be able to find her own or their own position and their own voice in an educational system that is already very masculine is a big challenge. So this is one of the projects that we are involved in with a lot of regional partners, and that also developed into not only a platform, but what am I doing wrong?
It's okay. It should open now. Click once again, and if it's not...
Good. Thank you. So just a few quotes of artists who were featured on the website for you to have an idea of what their position is. All the statements are not radical feminist statements. Some are very conservative, some are very traditional. Some women say expressly that they don't really care about feminism, they don't think it's relevant, but they are happy that it exists because they have 2 daughters. Some are really involved radically in feminist art and feminist theories, and there is the whole range between these 2 poles. One of the outcome of this initiative was our participation with a sound piece made specifically for the event at Manifesta in Pristina in 2022. So we were featured also as an archive, but also as a sound installation there at the National Gallery of Kosovo, where there was a block that was really dedicated to women creators and women artists. And this is just a short note, but this is not relevant anymore because it has been expanded since then. And I spoke so much that I think we are out of time, but this is just a few months before the Tallinn, the Manifesta project. I also curated the Tallinn Print Triennial in Tallinn, in Estonia, which was really examining the shift of meaning of notions that for a very long time we considered positive or secure. For example, the word warm, that at the basis is something agreeable, something nice, a nice feeling, but in the context of actual politics and of global warming, the word warm really became something threatening. And so this was why I chose the title Warm Checking Temperature in 3 Acts. So it was really divided in chapters in 7 different venues with the idea, here were the chapters: Nation Loves It, it's a work by Jasmina Cibic, Pickle Politics is a project by Slavs and Tatars, and The Science of Freedom is a quote from a sentence by Joseph Beuys. So just a few let's say shots, interior shots. I had the immense pleasure to work with Igor Eshkinya, whom work you can barely see here. This kind of adhesive installation here, but I really wanted to show this. So this was one location at the Estonian Academy of Arts. This in a private gallery with a whole room installation by Iva Kovač. This at the Hungarian Institute, where there was a kind of small selection of artists from the neo-avant-garde generation who really envisioned the creative freedom as a way to soothe the tension coming from politics and coming from the general discourse and from the climate and ecological pressure. And this was the main venue, the Kai Art Center, which was hosting 2 different chapters with one of Jasmina Cibic's big textile installation, works by Dan Perzowski at the front, and by Irena Lagator from Montenegro. In a brewery, we invited the Pickle Politics project of Slavs and Tatars, which is very funny, humorous, parallel drawn between pickling as something really linked to Central Eastern European gastronomy. It's also considered as a medicine. So if you have a hangover, your grandma will say, drink a bit of pickle juice because this heals you from the hangover. But it was also connected to a way to become sober from the patriotic discourse and the nationalistic discourses that are still ongoing today. So you can see a cucumber on the left as a kind of political gesture, and this, how do you call that? Horseradish that is also used as a traditional medicine and as elements of pickling in Central Eastern Europe. So it was basically an edition of the triennial that was really focusing on Central and Eastern Europe and on certain political context, like the right wing turn that so many countries experienced after Hungary, or unfortunately on the model of Hungary, but also seen in a more global context. Perfect timing. Perfect timing, because this is my last image, which is black. But I mean, I was really going through that very fast. I'm really happy to answer questions if you would like to have more details about that. I'm also very happy to send the PDF of the catalog if you're interested in reading it. And anyway, thank you so much for paying attention for so long and for staying until the end. Thank you.